Today is Tuesday, April 24th, 2012, and we are interviewing Dennis Ward at the Illinois State Library. Dennis is 60 years old, having been born on February 25th, 1950. My name is Rosalie Pecoraro, and I'll be the interviewer. Dennis, could you please state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
I served in Vietnam, and I was with the United States Marine Corps.
Okay. And what was your rank, and where did you serve?
My rank was E4, and I served on the DMZ with Fox 2-3, and I served south of Da Nang for 10 months with, out of An Hoa.
And what was your job or your assignment?
My job, I was an 0311. I was a grunt, and I ran at first you're just a snuffy rifleman, and then after that, then I became a fire team leader, and then I took over the squad for the last 7 months.
And did you see combat while you were there?
Absolutely.
Okay. Were there many casualties in your unit?
My squad suffered 90% casualties in the last 6 months. So that was a lot.
Yes, I'd say so. Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
Towards the end, in April of 1970, we made a night crossing into this area called the Arizona Territory. And it was platoon size, and we were a weakened platoon. And there was 28 of us. When we got across the river, set up for the night, and then the next morning at daybreak, then we moved into, it was a search and destroy mission. And we walked into a regimental ambush. They were the regiment. So it was pretty interesting. It was, they had an estimated strength of over 400, and we had an estimated strength of 28, and 5 went down on the initial hit. So we were down to 20, 23. We had to hold our position, which we did. We held it all day after repeated attacks and all night, and then went back. We started to move out the next day to get them, you know, to go after them. And regimental called us back because we had taken a few more casualties from booby traps and that. So we were becoming ineffective because we were down to 21 men. So.
Were you a prisoner of war?
No.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Oh, several.
Can you tell us about some
Well,
of those?
you automatically, for serving in Vietnam, you get the Vietnam Service Ribbon and the Combat Ribbon, Vietnam Combat Ribbon. I had 9, and they asked what to write down, and I can't remember. I have Purple Heart. I was wounded, and can't think of Good Conduct Medal. That's as amazing as that may seem. I got one. So, you know, those are the only 4 I can think of right now.
Okay. Tell us about staying in touch with your family.
That was difficult. I wrote home maybe once a month. But I got a letter from my grandmother, my mom's mother, Kate. And she went to only 6th grade. And she'd write me a letter every day I was in Vietnam. And it would be just 1 page and scribbled like a 2nd grader maybe. And just how you doing, what's new. You know, the Irish sweepstakes were on. I got a ticket for you. But just every day she wrote me. And she stayed in touch with me. And I couldn't write her every day, but, you know, I mean, that's about as good as I stayed in touch, you know, letters. And we had free letters. We didn't have, you know, the contact they have now. You know, so one time I was in the rear and was able to call home. You called home on, what was it called? It was a telephone, but it went through, it was relayed. So every time you got done, you had to say over, and then they would switch over to the other person. I think it was shortwave radio or something like that. So,
What was the food like?
it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good. You know, I mean, it wasn't like home cooking. You know, we were out in the bush all the time, so we ate sea rats that were from World War II and Korea. It was most of them, they'd have dates stamped on them. And you could see it was 1947, 1951. And you didn't eat that much over there anyhow. So, you threw away the main course, which would be beef and potatoes, yeah, and ham and something. You threw that away. You just opened it up and threw it away. And then you kept the pound cake or whatever snack was in there. You kept the fruit, you kept the crackers, you kept the peanut butter, and you kept the coffee. So in the morning when I got up, make a cup of coffee, and then make some tiger butter, which is peanut butter and jelly mixed together, and you put it on your 4 crackers. I'd eat that in the morning. And then later in the day, I might have my fruit punch or something, fruit cocktail, or a can of peaches. And then at night, I'd have a pound cake, or date nut cake, or some kind of, they have that in the can, you know. And that's all you ate.
Not very much.
It was enough. It was enough.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
No.
No.
No, the Marine Corps, the only one that fought a war on a budget. So I had the same boots for 8 months. Never had a change of clothes. Had 2 pairs of socks. That's just the way it was. We were filthy all the time. You know, I mean, because we were grunts. We were 0311s, and that was expected. You know, so like I couldn't get rounds. I carried for my weapon, I carried an M14, and that shot a bigger round than the M16. It was a 7.62, and I couldn't get regular rifle ammo for that. So I'd have to break M60 ammo, which is shot the same round, machine gun ammo. That's all linked together. So I'd have to break all the chinking off it and then load my magazines 1 round at a time. Well, that wasn't, you know, I had 6 magazines, and I carried 100 loose rounds in my pocket. That was plenty. Just didn't put your weapon on fully automatic. You made every shot count.
Did you feel pressure or stress when you were over there?
Yes and no. You know, I don't know. We didn't know it was stress. We had a job to do. We did it, you know, and didn't mean anything. You just did your job and helped your buddies. That's all. You know, I mean, it was like being in a family over there, especially a squad. You know, squad leader's the dad, and then you got all your kids underneath you. A bunch of different personalities that would do anything for each other.
And it would be hard then losing most of them towards the end.
Yeah, it was difficult. It was tough, but most of them were alive. You know, not all of them died. Casualties is wounded too. A couple came back, and the rest went home. You know, which was good. That's, you know, as long as you knew the wound wasn't that bad, then, you know, you'd be, the one guy was 17, and he was 18 then. He went, and he came in country with me, and in that engagement, he had a booby trap, and mangled his right leg, and I was the first one to him. That was during the ambush and that. And he looked at me and he says, "How bad is it?" I said, "Don't look at the leg, just look at me." You know, I says, "You're going to lose the leg." I said, "It looks like you're going to lose the leg." And he says, I said, "It's not that bad. It's below the knee." I said, "You're never going to have a limp. Nobody will know unless you get shorts on, man." And that's 2 18-year-olds talking to each other. And he said, "Wow, man." He says, "I thought it was really bad." And I said, "See, it wasn't that bad." He says, "Yeah, it's not." You know, I mean, that's the way we thought, you know. So it was different.
Did you do or have something special for good luck?
Well, I wouldn't let anybody ever take my rifle, ever. And I carried a St. Christopher medal that was sent to me, and I marked my helipads, like where we were going to land. They set up a perimeter, and we need to get a chopper in for a medevac, and that was always marked with the flag of Chicago. My flag of Chicago. My grandmother had Mayor Richard J. Daley, I believe, the first one. He wrote me a letter. It was a form letter on how proud he was to have a Chicagoan in Vietnam, and he gave us all a flag. So I carried mine every day, not flapping, we just folded up, and when I needed it, when you mark your place where your choppers are supposed to come in, you'd usually pop a smoke, like a smoke grenade, and it'd give off a certain color, and you identify the color, and I'd tell them to look for a Chicago flag. And they didn't know what it was, and I'd have to explain it to them. Someone thought it was an NBA flag. No, we got 4 stars. They only got 1. So they learned after a while.
How did you entertain yourself?
Oh gosh, we were nuts. We were a little crazy. I traded for 4 guys from other squads. Well, not 4 guys, but several guys to fill out a pinochle group, play pinochle. And you couldn't get pinochle cards over there. You had to take 4 decks and put them together to make a pinochle deck. And then we got beat so bad a couple of times, so we just ripped up the cards from away. And then we had because remember Don McLean, Too Young for You, had the Breakfast Club. Well, we had, there was 4 of us in it, and we had our coffee club. So every morning, one of us would be assigned to make coffee. It would rotate, for the rest of the guys. So first, this guy would get up, and he'd have to make coffee for all of us, and that was kind of our coffee club. And then we goofed around and said we had a tennis club, we had a bowling team, but we never were able to do any of that. And the new guys always were trying to figure out what the hell we were doing. But it was fun. We did a lot of laughing. Did a lot of laughing when times were down.
Were there any entertainers that came to see your units?
Any other what?
Any entertainers?
No. We were in the bush. Nobody came out to see us.
What did you do when on leave?
I had R&R in Australia. I went there and went to this place called the Texas Tavern, I think was the name of it. And it was for Americans to go there and play the music that was here, and there were girls there, and you danced and stuff like that. That's about it. You were gone 6 days. It felt kind of weird because you didn't have to watch anything, or it was hard sleeping because you only sleep like 2 hours at a time overseas, and here you could sleep all night. It was a difficult adjustment to make being on leave. Thing I didn't like is it made you feel less than wanted in Australia. Is before you got off, disembarked from the plane, they sprayed that whole plane. They fumigated it, the inside where we were at, or something, some kind of spray. And maybe they thought we were carrying bugs or something. And it could be. I don't know what the thing was, but it was a little weird for an 18-year-old guy to be sprayed down.
Where did you travel while in the service?
Nowhere. I went to Vietnam, and then I was, when I came home from Vietnam, I was sent to Bethesda Naval Hospital for an evaluation, and that was it. I went through, they had a 2-year enlistment then. So I went through boot camp, came home, boot camp, ITR, basic infantry training school, BITS. And then I came home for 25 days. I went back to staging battalion, then I was in Vietnam. So it was quick. It was a quick turnaround. And when I got done in Vietnam, after I got the evaluation, they tried to get me to stay there. You know, they wanted you to extend your time. But my first sergeant, who he was a great man, he came in country with me too, and he's the one that had me sent to Bethesda Naval Hospital because he said I was liking it too much. I was a little different. And he sent a chopper out to get me, and I wouldn't go. He called me on the radio, and my lieutenant couldn't make me go because I had more time in country than him. And he said to me, he said, if don't make me send the MPs, put you in a chopper. I said, oh, okay. It's going to be that serious. And that's the one time I showed any emotion leaving country, or, you know, during a firefight and all that. It was jokes and fighting and that, but it wasn't, you couldn't show any emotion because then you'd lose, your squad would lose it. You know, you couldn't let them know it was a bad time. They knew it enough. You know, if you break down, everybody goes. So that was I see my guys now, and they said that's the only time they ever saw me show any emotion. They said you were like a rock, unless I was smiling, unless I was laughing. So.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual event?
One of them that we used to do to the other squad is we needed C4, that's an explosive, and we need that to heat our food, and sometimes we'd run out of it. We weren't supposed to use it for that. We were supposed to use it to blow up things. And Claymore Mine used to set these out in the perimeter, and it has C4 locked in the back. And then you run a wire back in, you hit this, and then it blows it, and, you know, shoots all these BBs at the enemy, or who's ever out there, rat. So what we used to do is I used to send Robbie over to talk to the other squad and distract them. And I'd go out and take the covers off the back of their claymores, take the C4 out, put the back on. I did it to two of them, and then we'd take the C4 and then we'd throw rocks out there and that. And the first thing you do is blow your claymores. And they squeeze their handle and they hear pop. And that was it, nothing else, because the C4 was gone. And then you'd hear, Ward, you stole my C4 again. You know, that was, you know, it's kind of Marine Corps humor. Stuff like that. I'm trying to think. We did have fun. You know, I mean, it's some of it was sick fun, but we did have some fun when we were there.
Do you have any photos you would like to share or tell us about?
Yeah, I got a lot. Well, quite a few photos. Most of them are of the guys and that. And half of them, you know, you should have wrote on the back of them their names. You don't remember their names anymore. But I know all the places where they were taken. Mm-hmm. They got like Robbie said, we're in an ambush, and he was down, and the other four guys are all lined up and laying there, you know. And I was taking pictures of them. He says, hey, don't we need to do something to get the gooks off us? And I said, well, we will in time. I got to take your picture. I got to get pictures for you guys, you know. I'll send them to you. So I have pictures like that. You know, we have a lot of good pictures, you know, friends and buddies hanging out together and stuff like that. So,
what did you think of your officers and fellow soldiers?
My fellow Marines, you know, the enlisted men, for the most part, were excellent. You know, good guys. Our officers were dependent on who you got. My first officer was excellent. My first platoon commander was excellent, Lieutenant Mike Mayo. And then I got Lieutenant Timothy Pell, and he was good too. He was pretty good. Those two guys were good. We had a lousy company commander, my opinion only, our captain. He was horrible. he had us, he didn't know how to treat men, and he just pushed the heck out of us. And we were up in the mountains, and he wanted us to chomp across through the jungle and that. He gave us machetes, or we always had machetes and that to chop through and that. And he said we were going too slow, and I was on point with my squad. And he said, let's get it moving up there. And I said, Captain, you're not going to find anything here. They're not in the middle of the bush. They're on a trail, so let's take the damn trail. And he says, I told you where to go there. I said, if you want to go faster, get up here and start chopping, dude. So he came up and started whacking. And, temperature's 125, 130. You got full packs on, you're hot, you're miserable, ants are falling on you. So I said, boys, sit down, let's watch him. We'll move every time he's got an open trail for us. Oh, he was so mad at me. And he chopped his way for about 10 minutes. And I says, Cap, what do you think you want to do? You want to take the trail? He says, yeah, I think we better take the trail. I says, you should listen. I've been in country a lot longer than you. So, for the most part, they were good. The snuffies had to do their job. The grunts had to do their job. That's, you fit them into a group, and if they were weaker ones, they're strong, weak, all kinds, you fit them in where they needed to be, and you put them in a position that would protect them and the squad, and they had to perform to a squad. So,
did you keep a personal diary?
No.
Do you recall the day your service ended and where you were at?
Absolutely. I was discharged from Camp Henderson in, I think it's Virginia. And I was on temporary assigned duty there because it wasn't my normal base. That was because when I went there, it was a little rough. When I left Bethesda Naval Hospital, I couldn't be discharged from the Naval Hospital. I had to go to a Marine base to be separated, get my DD-214. And when I went there, when you're on temporary assigned duty, you're either going to rake the grass, which is dirt, or rocks, pick up cigarette butts, do stuff like that. I'm just home from Vietnam. And I thought that's no way to treat a veteran, combat veteran. And I was there, and I had my sea bag in my hand, and I actually captured an SKS, that's a rifle, one of their rifles. And I had that with me. And the company clerk, I stood in front of his desk for like 5 minutes. He never even addressed me. And I cleared my throat, and he said, Marine, when I have time, I will get to you. And that was the wrong thing to say to me that day. So I pulled him over the desk. I started to wail on him. And I was going to shoot him because the weapon was locked and loaded. And the captain came out. And, this captain I didn't know. And he told me to stand down. I had to stand down. They could have sent me to the brig. The captain was pretty cool. And he said, you got any time on the books? And I said, yeah. The company clerk that did this, the only ribbon he had was a Firewatch ribbon, which is a good contact look. He had never been to Vietnam, never been anywhere. You saw the grunts coming home. The Marines were pretty hard on them that were in the rear, with the grunt. And I said, better teach this man some respect for returning veterans, for returning at least to Marines. And he said, yeah, I'll talk to him. He said, go home. When you come back, he says, I'll have your papers ready. I said, thank you. So I went home for 10 days, came back, and when I walked in this time, the company clerk knew exactly what to do. And I went in and saw the captain, and he was the first and only man for 35 years to shake my hand and said, thank you for your service. Nobody else ever said that to me until 35 years later. So that was pretty cool. So that's why I won't forget it.
What did you do in the days and weeks afterwards?
Argued with my girlfriend. Drank a lot and argued with my girlfriend that's now my wife. She hated me when I came home. She told me, I hate you, I hate you. And I was different, you know. I couldn't understand, like I go out with my buddies and that didn't go. And they're worried about their girlfriend or, oh my God, Susie doesn't like me, I gotta just, people are dying. What are you worried about? There's more girls. What the hell's your problem? You're worried about a girl? Give me a break. So I was, 19 going on 40, and they were still 19-year-olds, with the stupid stuff, and, they worried about their car, their girlfriend, their clothes or something, And so I mostly stayed by myself. Went to places where all my friends hung out, but I kind of stayed by myself. I was 19, but I was in the city, so you could drink. It wasn't legal, but there's nowhere to go. And I'd go sit in the back by myself and drink, and guys would buy me a beer, bring it back to me, and say hi.
Did you work or go back to school?
No, I worked right away. I did. Had to go back to work. I was working within a week.
Did you ever use the GI Bill to get your education?
Oh. No.
Did you make any close friendships while in the service? And did you continue any of those relationships?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I made several. My lieutenant, that was my first platoon commander. He is a good friend. We talk all the time, and he actually is my financial advisor. He handles my money. I hadn't seen him in 30 years and talked to him, found out he handled money in that, and I still hadn't seen him. Just talked to him on the phone, and I said, "You handle my money?" And he said, "Sure." He could have been a crook, but I knew he was honest, and he's got me set up pretty well. And then a good friend of mine, Joe Jilton, that's in New Jersey. I see him, and we talk. And then my unit, I'm blessed to be I was with Lima Company, 3-5, and Lima Company has an annual reunion. And it's for the time 66 through 71. So a lot of the guys I don't know, but a lot of the guys we end up friends, and if you know your squad's going there, or somebody that brings other guys in there, So, like they said we went to my first reunion I went to was 2 years ago in St. Louis. And Joe was there, and a friend of mine, Earl, and a guy by the name of Black. And the reunion committee said it was amazing how we had picked up as if we had seen each other for the last 40 years. We had just started talking and shooting the ball, having fun, and enjoying each other. It was very nice to get to see these guys.
Did you join a veterans organization?
Yes.
What kind of activities does your post or association have?
Well, we do our monthly meetings. I'm with the DAB, and then we assist veterans with their benefits and that. That's our main purpose, and especially disabled veterans is who our charter says we're supposed to help, not just regular veterans. And we do, and what else do we do? We were a color guard at the Chiefs game today, so we make events and awareness and that to citizens and that. So, it's mostly what we do.
What career did you choose after your service time?
I got into construction, and I became a carpenter, residential carpenter. And I went to work for a company in the north side of Chicago in 1984. And I was living down at Seacourt. And because T-Corps was going through Central Illinois was going through the Rust Belt at that time. Caterpillar was down, Komatsu was moving out in that area. So there weren't many jobs for carpenters down there. So I went back to Chicago where you got a name. If you're a good worker, you can always work in Chicago. And I ended up on the north side building homes for the rich and famous up in Lake Forest, Highland Park. And then that led to becoming a superintendent where I ran the jobs, all the jobs, all the trades on the job. And then I became vice president of the company, and then I became president of the company. So it was, when I was there, this was a few years back, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was president, and we were a $60 million company at that time. I had 78 jobs in the ground, running at one time, and probably 50 in design. So it was pretty stressful. And after 2 years, I resigned because of the stress it got to me. It was too much like being responsible. That bothers me, being responsible for everybody in that, because I had 130 employees, and felt like I was back in service.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about war or military in general?
Influence? What do you mean by influence? Do you have any idea what I mean by influence my thinking about war?
I guess I would say, do you think that like your time in Vietnam, it influenced, I would think, obviously, how you think about war or the military now, since you were there and you went through it?
Yeah, it does, yes. I can see where it does, but I'm not, didn't turn me into a pacifist, or, I'm still a hawk. And I just don't think, like a lot of veterans, we have roles they don't. And you have the people here, the United States, giving us rules that the enemy doesn't have, and we always got to be the good guy. And that's not war. You can't be the good guy. The good guy usually loses. Look at Vietnam.
How has your service and experiences affected your life?
It's not all positive, but the positives of it is chain of command. So when I could run a company, I knew how to set up a chain of command and an order, on how to set it up, because they didn't have one before the company I was with. Decision making, absolutely. I mean, you can get, the military can get, I'd see guys that had 2 years of high school, if that, barely speak English, and I can hand them $1 million weapon and they know how to handle it. And I look at civilian life, and that's through training, and I look at what we do in civilian life. They can't even get a guy with a PhD to write a decent letter. And I'm exaggerating, but the training here is horrible. And then they expect performance out of people, So they got to look at the Marine Corps, the Army, a little bit for some of the training they do, So, that's helped me an awful lot. As far as negatives, I don't sleep at night. I sleep about 3 hours a night at sleep, and I'm up all the time. Night is bothersome, that bothers me somewhat. You have flashbacks, you have a lot of memories, good and bad, So, I don't know, I would not have missed, even knowing the outcome, I would still have enlisted and still have gone and still have been. I know, like this friend of mine in New Jersey, he has some real problems with PTSD and that. And I went out and saw him, and his two boys came up to me, and they said, "My God, this is the happiest I've seen my dad since I've known him. He's always been such a jerk and a goof." And I said, "Well, maybe you're not giving him enough break, and maybe, and that." And he said, we want you out here all the time, so you have a good influence on him, and you guys must have been together, that year you guys spent together somehow like that had to be great." I said, "You know how long I knew your father?" And they said, "No." I said, 4 months. And I said, "Then I wrote it." I said, "It's a bond, as if we were together for 50 years, and the positive impact we have on each other, because we suffered we went through the same thing. Each one experiences it differently, but we did do it together, So it's pretty good. I like it.
The last question is there anything else you'd like to add?
Boy, I went through these pretty quick, didn't I? I didn't expand too much. I'll tell you. Trying to think of what I like to add. One thing I wanted to say when we were talking about officers is that reason we went through so many officers, platoon commanders and captains, is they had a thing called strain of command. That's what it was called in the Marine Corps. So you get, like if they made me squad leader the first day I was in country, I would be squad leader for 12 months, 20 days, or until I got hit, or until I proved I was incompetent. But our officers, you get a brand new second lieutenant out of OCS who didn't know which end of the rifle was which. Nothing against them, but our officers stayed with us 3 months because of the strain of command of them running a platoon. Well, the platoon was 28 men. I was running 6 to 8. The full squad would have been 14, and I didn't have the strain of command. Why not? I was closer to him than he ever was. He knew me. He knew the 3 squad leaders. He didn't know the men. And the men were the ones that were doing the dying and the fighting, but he had the strain. I was like, and I talked to my lieutenants about it it's a fair question. I said, "What the hell? You guys get rotated back. You guys spent 4 months in the bush and then rotated to the rear." I says, when I went into the bush the first time, I didn't get out of the bush, except walk into a fire base for a night and then go out. For 8 months, I lived and slept on the ground every day. I lived like the North Vietnamese Army. And that was good. That's good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like the Army, where they go out, fight for 3 weeks, so see abnormal, and then go back to their base, chopper back into their base, which was like the world. They had PX, they had movies, they had beer, they had girls, they had everything they wanted in the rear, which was normal. And, they'd get high, they'd smoke their pot, and then they go out and they fight something abnormal. And that's why a lot of those guys are crazy. They're absolutely nuts, because you can't go normal, abnormal, normal, we stayed pretty much abnormal. Stayed in that heightened state. And then, so it was, I don't know, I wouldn't change it. I think I'm big on stats and reading on what we did and people's experiences and that. Senator James Webb, have you ever heard of him? Mm-hmm. Senator James Webb is the senior senator from Virginia or South Carolina, one of those two. There's only 100 senators, so he'd be one of them. This is his last term, and he was a platoon commander in the 5th Marines in my area, and he wrote a letter, or he's written several books, and what he thinks of his men and who his heroes are. And he wrote a response to Tom Brokaw's The Greatest Generation. written by him on how the Vietnam generation feels about the greatest generation, our parents. And it's excellent. It's an excellent article. And what people say about Vietnam, the misnomers about it, is that we had a bigger enlistment for Vietnam than they did for World War II. The Marines lost more men in Vietnam than we did in all the beach landings in World War II. And there was no lack of the men going into combat. They would go. They just go when they were supposed to. And then I think 83% of the casualties were enlisted men. Or not enlisted, enlisted. They enlisted. They signed up voluntarily, not the draftees. Because there's a big thing made about the draftees going. There were very few over there. And that's in both, throughout Army, Marine Corps, Air Force and Navy. What else did you have? There were some really good points to make their own. They said it was Martin Luther King had said that there was a disproportionate number of African Americans in Vietnam. So we were sacrificing them. And that's not true. It was in the same relationship that the black was to the white community, to proportionate to the United States. It went well. And they fought well. I mean, not taking anything away, but these are misnomers they have about this war. Because everybody wants to get their little lie in about it. Everybody wants to tell a lie about Vietnam. Why? So I think that's about enough.